Today, we're gonna be making some fun fall home decor. Welcome back to our Sailrite workbench. I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing these fabric fall pumpkins in every store recently, and I really thought I could make that. So today, we're gonna be making some DIY fabric pumpkins. You really don't need that many tools and materials. So first, we have some Krypton fabric. We're gonna be using 2 different colors just for our 2 different pumpkins. We also have some Durawax in this nice brown color, which will be our stem, and some polyfill. For our tools, we have the clear acrylic ruler, some scissors, a marking tool, thread, and a large hand sewing needle. Thread color is totally up to you. You can either just use whatever thread you have laying around, or you could try to match it to your fabric. We're gonna be showing you 2 different methods to make these pumpkins. The first method is gonna be great for smaller pumpkins or for a thinner fabric. The second technique is gonna be for larger pumpkins or for thicker fabric. And you can use either method for either type of pumpkin. This is just what we found to be easiest. First, we're gonna start with making a smaller pumpkin. So to make our pumpkin, we're gonna be making a rectangle shape. You can make the pumpkin any size you'd like, just be sure to use these guidelines. Make sure that whatever the width of the pumpkin is, that the length is 2 times as long. So to put it in more basic terms, the height will be 1 part and the length will be 2 parts of whatever measurement you wanna be using. To make our small pumpkin, we're gonna be using the measurements of 7 inches by 14 inches. Next, we're gonna cut it out. Then take this piece over to the sewing machine. First, we're gonna sew down both of the longer edges of the fabric, and we're gonna be setting our stitch tension very loose for these. You also wanna make sure that you don't backstitch and that you're using a 6mm stitch length. Make sure that you leave the thread tails longer. Then we're gonna repeat the same thing on the other side. The last seam we're gonna make is gonna be along the side. So we're gonna fold it so that the right side of the fabric is on the inside. Fold these together so that the edges are lined up. Next, we're gonna sew down the edges, being sure to try to get these loose thread ends out of the way. Before we sew, tighten the stitch tension. We don't want it to be loose, we want it to be at the correct setting. Then we're also gonna change our stitch length to about 3mm. And with this line of stitches, you do wanna backstitch at the beginning and the end. Now take this back to our workbench. Now we are gonna cinch one of our ends. So to do that, take 2 of the outside thread tails and tie them loosely in a knot. Then slowly tighten that until it's cinched all the way around. Once you have it pretty well cinched, tie these strings in a knot just to secure it into place. Just make sure you can kind of see the ends. Next, we're gonna use the excess thread ends to wrap it around the opening a few times just to secure it even further. Now we're gonna turn it right side out. So this is how the underside should look. Next, we're gonna fill it with polyfill. You want it to be pretty full, almost overflowing. Next, we are gonna cinch this end the same way we cinched the other end. So we're gonna tie these 2 outside threads together and then just keep the polyfill in as you close it up. And then to tie this into place, you might need an extra hand. And this is the shape it should have at this point. Next, add thread to create the shape of the pumpkin. Pull off a good portion of thread and thread it through your hand sewing needle. We're gonna double our thread and then tie a knot on the end. We're gonna start at the bottom and thread the needle up through it. And we're gonna aim to come out in the middle of the top. So then we're gonna wrap it down any side of the pumpkin pretty tightly and then do the same thing, go up through the middle and just continue until you have as many cinches as you'd like. As you can see, as you tighten that thread, it starts to take that pumpkin shape. So then once you have the pumpkin shape that you want, you can then thread it back through the fabric to the bottom, and then create a loop and tie a knot. And then obviously, if there's any weird spots on the pumpkin, you can kind of adjust it and move the fabric where you'd like it. Now all that's left is the stem. So we're gonna grab our Durawax. So we're just gonna take a small strip of Durawax. And there's really lots of options for the stem. One type of stem that you can have is just rolling the piece and keeping it pretty straight, and then you can just tuck it in there. Or we've also found that if you kind of roll it up at an angle, it can create a more twisted stem. And since Durawax actually holds its shape, you can just kind of mold it into whatever stem shape that you want. Even though there's some thread in the way of this hole, just kind of nestle it in there so that it holds. You're welcome to add any type of hot glue or glue just to get that to stay more permanently, but it really does kind of sit in there and you have an adorable little homemade pumpkin. Now we will show you the second method with a larger pumpkin. For the large pumpkin, we're gonna be drawing a rectangle that is 12 inches by 24 inches. Now we're gonna take this over to the sewing machine. For the second method, we are only gonna sew a stitch that closes up this end. Again, just like with the smaller pumpkin, we're gonna have the correct sides facing in. And we're gonna return to our workbench. For larger pumpkins or for a fabric that's just thicker to work with, we are gonna be doing a different method. So again, we're gonna cinch one side, fill it with stuffing, and then cinch the other side. Grab your hand sewing needle and your thread and get about two pulls worth of thread. And again, we're gonna double it after we've threaded our needle, and then just tie the end in a knot. Knot it a couple times just so it doesn't pull through our fabric. Now weave the needle back and forth around the whole edge and then pull it tight to cinch it. Start about 1/4 inch down from the edge and then just kind of accordion the fabric through the needle. And this doesn't have to be super specific, just kind of do what feels right and it should cinch just fine. And then once you get back to the start, you can pull it tight. So then again, just like that, we've cinched it, and we're gonna do the same thing that we did on the first method and just wrap the excess thread around a few times and knot it into place. There we go, and then we'll cut the excess thread. Now turn it right side out. And then stuff it with polyfill. Now with it pretty stuffed, do the same cinch method around the top edge. Now we're back to the same step that we did on the first one. Take our needle and a whole bunch of thread, and we're just gonna thread it to make the pumpkin shape, and then we'll be done. Got yourself 2 fabric pumpkins. Really, this project can go any direction. With fabric, material, colors, you can make whatever you want to fit your own home decor. And if you do end up making these pumpkins, be sure to tag us on social so that we can see them. And if you want to see the tools and materials, again, we've listed them in the description below. And make sure to subscribe to our channel so that you can stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.